guys, welcome back to the channel. I've got something a little different for you guys today. If you look at my Instagram, I have a very specific way of how I organize the posts on my profile. A lot of people have asked me how I do this, and I wanted to give a little bit of a tutorial for people that are interested in doing the same with their Instagram. Most of the time when I'm doing art, I will go ahead and screen record it as well. And if I like the screen recording, if the art turns out to be a fairly vertical format, I will oftentimes turn that screen recording into a reel for Instagram. I can also post it to my TikTok and my YouTube Shorts, and that is 3 extra posts of content from the exact same piece in addition to the piece that I would normally be posting to my Instagram. Now, what I do for that reel is I actually post it directly underneath the post for the original piece, so that when you look at my Instagram profile, you can see the original piece on top and then the reel for that piece directly under it. Now, if you were scrolling through, you would have to scroll a couple spaces just because that's how your profile is set up on Instagram, but I just really enjoy the look of stacked posts like this. And I've been getting a lot of questions on how exactly I do this. It took a long time to figure out and a lot of math, but I finally have everything written down and I'm able to show you guys, hopefully in this video format. Hopefully it'll make sense for you. I just really wanted to share how I do this because I really enjoy how my profile looks, and I think other people would enjoy doing this to their profiles as well. So let's go ahead and get into it. So in order to make stacked posts like this, you have to know a couple things. One, your Instagram profile is 3 posts long. So including the first post, the bottom half of the picture that you want to create, you're going to need 2 posts in between to make up that 3 across section. So the order of posting is going to go like this. Bottom of your stacked thumbnails, which for me is usually a reel, but you can also do this with photos. 2 other posts to space it out. It can be relevant to your reel or not. That's completely up to you. And then the third post, which is going to stack on top of that first one that you just posted, is going to be the top of your stacked reel. So you are going to end up with like a full picture on your Instagram profile out of just your reels. So that's the posting order that you want to do. Base, 2 random posts, and then the top of your stacked reels. And I've done it before where I actually do them 4 wide, in which case you want to do 2 relevant posts side by side, 1 non-relevant post, and then 2 relevant posts on top to stack 2 by 2, making a 4 square space. However, as you scroll down your Instagram profile, this doesn't really travel that well. Sometimes the 2 posts get split up and then they get back together again, and then as you post more, the 2 posts are going to get split up again. But if you do just the 2 stack method, those posts are always going to be together, because when you post again, the bottom half of those stacked posts is going to go down to the next row, but the top post is also going to follow it, going down to the row that the previous post was in. So as you continue posting to your Instagram, they're just going to follow each other, and it's going to permanently be a stacked post, which is what I really like about it. So now that we've gotten the posting schedule out of the way, now comes the more mathematical part, and we're gonna start really easy. The Instagram thumbnail, the one that you see on your profile, is always going to be in a 1-to-1 ratio. That means whatever the measurement on the top is, it's going to mimic the measurement on the side. So to introduce you guys to the concept of how you would stack your posts, I'm gonna start with this first one I did a while ago featuring my lovely character Maggie, because this one is actually 1080 by 1080, which means it is a 1-to-1 ratio. So we're gonna start with that, make the process a little easier for you. So the first thing you wanna do when you're picking your image to put on those stacked posts is you want to have an image that works very well vertically. This is not going to work with horizontally oriented posts. Those ones have to post side by side. If you want them one on top of the other so that they do move with your Instagram, you want them to be vertical. So this picture of Maggie here, even though it is 1-to-1 ratio, it is a vertically oriented position for her. She's standing up straight. There's nothing on the sides here that I'm worried about getting cut out. So this is going to work perfectly for our first example. And what I want to do, because this is a 1080 by 1080 post, I want to go ahead and double that, because our Instagram thumbnails are going to be one on top of the other, which means you're going to want to take this height and double it. So I'm going to do exactly that. I'm going to increase the height from 1080 to 2160, which is 1080 times 2. And this little anchor point right here, I'm going to bring that to the bottom so that the canvas only grows upwards instead of expanding up and down. I'm going to show you an example what I mean. This is what we don't want to do. If you put the anchor point in the middle, hit OK, your canvas is going to expand both above and below your picture, and that's not what we want. So instead what we're gonna do is we're going to put that anchor point at the bottom of this little square so that your canvas only extends upwards. Hit okay, and now we've got this very, very long canvas, and this is what we're gonna be working with. On your Instagram, this is going to be the bottom thumbnail, and this is going to be the top thumbnail. Now, if you're just stacking image posts, which is probably what you're gonna wanna start with, you can leave it here, and all you have to do is resize your image so that it fits that 1:2 scale. And this is again where you want the really vertically oriented image so that it fits in there without cutting off anything important. And this way, you can go ahead and change the canvas size again, keep that anchor point on the bottom, do another 1080 so that you are back in the 1:1 ratio. Hit okay, and now you can save this. I'm going to name it Maggie Thumb Bottom. And then once you have that saved, go ahead and hit undo so that you come back to this 1:2 canvas. And then we're gonna go ahead and change the canvas size again, go back to 1:1, so 1080 by 1080. And instead of having the anchor point at the bottom here, we're gonna actually bring it up to the top, hit okay. And now we have the top half of the stacked thumbnails. So if I save this as Maggie Thumb Top, I can go ahead and open both of those. And I can go ahead and kind of demonstrate here how this post stacking is going to work. Size these down so that they fit on the screen. If you put one on the bottom and one on the top, this is how it's going to look on your Instagram. And you can see that it makes a full picture out of those stacked posts. Very fun. I absolutely love doing this. However, what I like to do, because I'm an artist and I like to be able to post speed draws of my work, is instead of just posting this bottom one as its own separate thumbnail, I'm gonna turn this into a reel. Now this is where things get a little bit tricky, so bear with me. Feel free to kind of work along with me in your own art program so that hopefully this makes a little bit more sense to you, because reel thumbnails are actually in a 9:16 ratio. So instead of 1:1, where you've got the same amount of pixels in the width as you do as the height, a 9:16 ratio, for every multiple of 9 you have in the width, you're going to multiply by 16 on the height. So for example, if we take our 1080 scale here, what we're going to need to do in order to fit this into a reel thumbnail format is make it a 1080 by 1920 thumbnail. Now the math here is a little bit confusing. I'm not gonna get too far into the nuances of ratios. We're gonna work with this 1080 by 1080 piece, turn it into a stacked reel and thumbnail, and afterwards I'm gonna give you guys a sort of a formula that you can use to adjust your posts of any size to fit this stacked format. So first things first, I'm gonna show you what this is going to look like as a reel thumbnail instead of just a regular post thumbnail. So I'm gonna go back into canvas size and I'm going to change this to 1920 because 1080 by 1920 is a 9:16 format. This is also generally the resolution that you want reels to be in. Works perfectly in my experience. So this is going to be what our reel thumbnail canvas looks like. We can adjust the size from here so that she sits nicely on that canvas. But again, this is not gonna do us any good for actually stacking the reels. And this is where the tricky part comes in. So we're gonna go ahead and go back to the regular thumbnail. And in preparation for stacking it, I'm gonna go ahead and do the same thing that we did last time. I'm going to double the height and put the anchor point on the bottom again so that we get this nice long canvas. Now what I want to do is I want to add a little bit of room on the bottom of this canvas, because what Instagram does when you post a reel is, even though the reel thumbnail is 1080 by 1960 or that 9:16 format, when you visit your profile, Instagram is going to automatically crop the top and bottom of that reel thumbnail to fit in that 1:1 square that you see on your profile. So essentially what I want to do is I want to make sure that we have enough room here that it's going to basically fit the format of a reel thumbnail. So the math that I have for you there is you're going to take the height of your reel, which for me is 1920. You're going to subtract the width of your post, which is 1080. And then once you get that number, for me it's 840, you're going to divide it by 2 to make up for the extra room at the top and the bottom of the reel. Now for my measurements, that gives me 420 extra pixels. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this 2160 and add 420 to it, which gives me 2580. Now for the anchor point on this one, because I've got all this canvas on the top and I actually want to add a little bit of canvas down here to allow for that reel cropping, I'm going to anchor this at the top so that we add a little extra canvas to the bottom. Put that anchor point, make sure your height is at the right length, and hit OK. And now we've got this extra little room at the bottom. Now, just to show you what's going on here, if we were to go ahead and make this 1080 by 1920, which is again our reel thumbnail, we're going to have this perfectly framed thumbnail right here that we would usually use as a reel. So with this all being said, now is the time time that I can go ahead and readjust my character here so that she fits in the allotted space. Beautiful. And then I'm gonna go ahead and do the exact same thing we did last time where we trim the canvas and save those thumbnails. But instead of 1080 by 1080, I'm going to do 1080 by 1920 for the bottom half because again, that is our real size. We're going to save that and then we're going to undo that canvas, change the canvas size again, this time to 1080 and anchor at the top. And now we have a thumbnail for the top of the reel as well. Now this one's a little bit trickier to see because you do have to contend with Instagram's cropping of your reels. But if I go ahead and open both of these up, adjust them so that the sizes match, and you can already see how I'm gonna have to overlap one over the other. That is a-okay because again, Instagram is going to be chopping off about this much of your reel thumbnail when they put it on your profile. So that is your stacked profile piece with a reel. Again, Instagram's going to chop off the bottom as well, so it's gonna look something like this on your profile. All right, are we following along so far? Because that was the easy part. Now we're getting into the more mathematical formulas territory. So we're gonna go ahead and say goodbye to Maggie here because she was our nice little 1-by-1 photo. And I wanna show you guys how to do this even if your Instagram posts are not in a 1-to-1 ratio. So I have my beautiful little golden mermaid piece here. Let's see here. The size for this one, the canvas size for this one is 1080 by 1350, which is usually when I want to do a vertical or horizontally oriented canvas, this is usually the ratio that I put it in just because it's a little more aesthetically pleasing to scroll through on Instagram. If you have a super wide post, Instagram is going to shrink it a bit because obviously it can only go the length of your phone. And if you have a super tall post, then you have to like scroll down a lot on Instagram. This is really just the best ratio to post on Instagram. Personally, I don't go any larger than this. I think you still can though. So I'm going to show you something a little bit different for this piece because we're already comfortable with the 1-by-1 format, and because the 1-by-1 format is what Instagram wants for its thumbnails, I'm going to go ahead and open up a new canvas here, 1080 by 1080, 1-to-1, and I'm going to show you guys how to make a template for your stacked thumbnails. I have a few of these saved for a couple different dimensions, and this way I don't have to do this math every single time. I just save the template and then I import my piece and adjust as necessary. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go ahead and take this 1-by-1 square and fill it in with one color, and then we're going to do the same exact thing we did last time, anchor at the bottom and double the height. Beautiful. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take a second layer, pick a different color and fill that in. I'm also going to lower the opacity so that you can see the first layer through it, but hopefully you can see a little more clearly now what your stacked thumbnails are going to look like. Now again, we want to do a reel on the bottom, so I'm going to use the same technique we did for the last one and add 420 onto this bottom piece, which makes 2580, because remember 420 is the bottom half of the reel thumbnail that gets cut off by Instagram. Add that on, and then instead of filling in this layer, I'm gonna go ahead and change the canvas size yet again, anchor it to the bottom, and actually type in the dimensions for your Instagram reel. Hit OK, and now we have our perfect little Instagram reel shape. The top and bottom here are going to get cut off by Instagram, and this middle portion is what you are going to see on your profile. I'm gonna go ahead and fill that in with our third color, lower the opacity again, and then go back to canvas size, and we're going to actually take a step backwards and go back to that extra long canvas that we had before, which was 2580. Remember your anchor point at the bottom there because you want your canvas to grow back up towards the top. Now it's going to look a little confusing, but let me go ahead and break this down for you. We've got this top square here is going to be the top thumbnail on our profile. This bottom square is the bottom thumbnail on our profile. This yellow rectangle is the full size of our Instagram reel thumbnail. And then these little yellow bits are what's going to be cut off by Instagram. So if I get rid of the yellow, you've still got your orange square and your red square, which are going to be your stacked posts. Are you with me so far? Now, this is the little bit of mathematic formula that you're going to need for this process. Basically, my original post, the mermaid here, she is 1080 pixels wide by 1350 pixels tall, right? So we're gonna do the same sort of mathematical formula that we did for the reel, but instead we're going to apply it to the new dimensions of the actual picture. So remember, that's 1350, the actual height of the picture, minus 1080, which is the height that we want the thumbnail to be. That's going to give me 270, and then I'm going to take that 270 and divide it by 2, because again, Instagram is going to cut off the top half and the bottom half of your post. So 270 divided by 2 is 135. So I'm gonna go ahead and add 2,535 onto this height here. So 2,580 plus 135 is 2,715, 2715. Remember that anchor point at the bottom because we want our canvas to grow upwards. Hit OK. And we've got just this little tiny space at the very, very top. Don't fill in another layer yet, but what we are going to do is change the canvas size. I was gonna say one more time, but it's not the last time. And we're gonna anchor at the top because we want this to be our top thumbnail. And we're going to change the height to our original 1350. Now these are the dimensions of our original piece. 1080 by 1350. Hit OK, double check, 1080 by 1350. Okay, so just so we can see what we're looking at here, I'm gonna take away the layer for the reel because that's not relevant to this point. But this orange space here is going to be your top thumbnail on your Instagram profile. And then the entire canvas here with the red and the white at the bottom, that is going to be the format of the piece that you're posting. Make sense? All right, we're gonna go ahead and fill in our last layer here. I'm gonna do green just because I'm going down the rainbow. And then change canvas again back to that large size that we had earlier, to 2715, anchor at the top, hit OK. And now we've got this beautiful kaleidoscope of color. So basically what this is a template for you to take images of this specific size. For me, it was 1080 by 1350. Plug it into this piece and it sort of gives you a visual of what is going to be cut off, what is your reel going to look like, and what is your thumbnail going to look like. So just to show you guys what I mean, I'm gonna go ahead and take my mermaid drawing here and paste it into this piece. I'm putting it all the way on the bottom. And just for posterity's sake, I'm gonna get rid of the reel and the post for now. So we've just got our two thumbnails. These are the thumbnails that are gonna be stacked on top of each other on Instagram. I'm going to adjust my piece to fit within those two thumbnails. There we are. All right, so as you can see, this lighter orange bit here, that is going to be our top thumbnail on Instagram. This bottom orange bit is going to be our bottom thumbnail on Instagram. And then we've got the different layers here. Remember, the yellow is going to be what our reel thumbnail is going to look like. And then this green is going to be what the actual post looks like in your feed. I know this is a lot, guys. I'll try my best to write down the formula as simply as possible so that you guys can kind of understand where this is all coming from. But basically what you can do now is you can change the canvas size again, anchor at the bottom for your bottom post, change your dimensions to the reel dimensions, save your piece. There we are. Undo that and then anchor at the top. And this one you're going to save as the same format as your actual picture. So this is going to be 1080 by 1350. And that is the thumbnail that we are going to get that shows up on Instagram itself when you're actually scrolling through posts. If I were to go a step further and change this to 1080, anchor in the center, this is going to be what's going to show up on your profile. So once again, I'm gonna go ahead and sort of map these out for you so you guys can see what it will look like on your Instagram profile. Oh, I forgot to save this one. Save this as the top. And we've got the bottom piece as well. And then these are your two thumbnails. Remember, Instagram is gonna cut off a portion of these for the thumbnails. So just to replicate that, I'm gonna sort of bring these down a little bit to the correct height. And you can see how, once again, these are going to stack up on your profile and look like a complete picture. And that's basically the end of it. I've got one more piece to show you guys just to demonstrate that this can be done at different height levels with the same formula. So we're gonna go ahead and get rid of this lovely lady. Oh, before I do that, if we back up all the way here, back to our little template, make sure you save this template like as a sci file, as a Photoshop file, and then you can use it in the future so that you don't have to go through all the mathematics again. And what I do is I save it with the file name of the actual dimensions of the piece that I want to post. So for example, this one would be saved as 1080 by 1350. But I already have that piece, so I'm gonna go ahead and close that without saving. And then this is the last piece I have. You can see that it's a little bit taller than that gold mermaid one. If we check the canvas size here, it is 1080 by 1528, which is a little bit of an odd canvas size, but we can still work with it. So once again, we're gonna get our new canvas of 1080 by 1080, fill in that first layer, change the canvas size, anchor to the bottom, and double the height, 2160 for me, fill in another layer. And then remember, we're adding onto the bottom of the canvas to accommodate for the reel thumb. So adding 420 onto the bottom. So remember, we got that integer by taking the height of the reel thumb, 1920. You're getting hot? Don't get hot. All right, hopefully this doesn't screw up my audio too much. My camera's overheating a bit, so I apologize if this screws up my audio. But remember, we got that integer by taking the height of the reel thumbnail, subtracting the height of the thumbnail that is going to appear on Instagram, which is 1080, and then dividing that remaining number by 2 to get just the bottom half of that reel. So 1920 minus 1080 is 840, divided by 2, 420. And then we're adding 420 onto this, which is 2580. Oh, anchor to the top so that the canvas goes down. Beautiful. And then change the canvas size again to that real thumb. And we've got the size of our thumbnail. Return to that 2580. Now we're gonna do math again. So the canvas that we want, the height is 1528. So we're going to do 1528 minus 1080 equals 448 divided by 2 is 224. 224 plus 1528 is 1752. So 1528 minus 1080 is 448 divided by 2 is 224. We've got our elongated canvas here. Add that 224 to your 2580 and you get 2804, and that just adds that little bit at the top. And then we're going to change the whole height back to that 1528 so that we're back in that 1080 by 1528 ratio, which is what our original piece is set at, and use this with the final color. And then we're gonna go back once more to that full size that we had, that 2804. And now we have yet another template where we can take our mermaid here, paste her there, bring her all the way to the bottom so that we can see those layers and adjust the size as needed. There we go. Get rid of that template, change the canvas size so that we have the correct thumbnails. Save that, go back, and then remember to change that top piece to the original 1528, the format that the original piece is in. Save that. All right, and now we've got our 2 thumbnails here. Let me stack them once again for you. There's our 2 thumbnails. I'm just gonna shave these down like Instagram does so that we've got 2 squares. Et voila. All right, guys. Well, this is such a fun way to stack your posts on your Instagram. And then once you have the thumbnail, you can use the Instagram carousel so that whoever's viewing your piece can swipe to the next page and see the whole piece. But yeah, that's how you stack your thumbnails on Instagram. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. Yeah, hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you have any questions. If you want to follow me on my other platform, you can find me on Instagram, Twitch, Twitter, and Patreon, all under Threadwing, spelled exactly the same as it is here. Thank you for hanging out with me. Let me know if you want more videos like this, and I will see you guys next week. Bye!